if I can serve any purpose. You want me to start off?
Yeah, you can start off.
Well, okay, you just told a pretty good story, so let's tell that one again. Talk about getting a call yesterday and actually let your family know about it.
I got informed yesterday that it was going to kind of be released today, and so I called my parents and I let my dad know. I said, I don't know necessarily all the details, but it sounds like, I'm going to get to go to the Sugar Bowl, and I would assume you're going to come with me. And that was a lot of cheering from my dad. He was pretty excited. He gets to go to potentially get to go to a BCS game. And then after he got done, off of his excitement of him getting to go, he's like, "Oh, good job too." He's like, "Congratulations on that yourself." But my parents were definitely excited to hear the news.
You mentioned about, you were talking about your dad liking Clemson, or his FBS team, I guess. I'm sure Carson-Newman's his D2 team, but
Absolutely.
he's excited maybe getting that possibility too, to watch them play.
Yeah, he sort of calculated in his head if Clemson can win out since they lost to Florida State, they could get a bid. Because we used to go to Clemson games a lot when I was a little kid. And of course, we haven't gone to any since I've been here. So he definitely would be excited to get to go to one. It's a long shot, but he immediately started making the calculations in his head.
I'm not sure the statistics, maybe they know, but I have back-to-back winners of this award. Byron Bell won it last, or was it not named to the team last year? You are this year. That's got to make it even more special, I would imagine, or add a little something to it, maybe.
Well, it is definitely interesting that Byron did it last year, and then I got lucky enough to get a nomination this year for it. And I think that goes a lot to show what Carson-Newman is definitely about, because we just won the national championship in community service among all colleges in the nation. We just got first place in that. And so you have Byron, and a lot of the stuff that I get an opportunity to do, because it's hard if you're going to school, you are a student athlete, to do these extra things. Well, fortunately for me, Coach Sparks provides opportunities for us to get to do these things. So there'll be stuff hanging in the locker room, little this or that. This is going on. If you want to sign up for this, if you want to go help out at this, like one of the things I've done is the Luke 14 event at Manly Baptist, where we spend time with special needs adults and children, and that's just one of the things. They put up a sign up list in there, and a lot of that stuff you would never hear about if it wasn't for our coaching staff being willing to put that out there and want us to and help us find out about that information. And so that just goes to show you a lot about Carson-Newman and a lot about Coach Sparks, Carson-Newman football, and everything about how we do things here.
I remember last year I went with you guys when you visited Children's Hospital. And I guess the whole offensive line did. And I didn't know at the time, I guess, but as you're interacting with a lot of these kids, I guess your sister needed a bone marrow transplant at some point, and you gave her that. So at first, I want to ask you, what was it like to visit these kids that when you've had someone so close to you in that same type of room, going through those same types of things? And I remember you were the one that was mainly talking to them and stuff. I just want to get your feelings about meeting up with these children that go through these things after having it things like that happen so close to you.
Well, it's definitely good to have, for lack of a better way of saying it, just experience in the situation. We went to St. Jude when I was a senior in high school and did a bone marrow transplant for my sister. And when you go to St. Jude, there's just kids everywhere. Some aren't sick, some are siblings, but everywhere. A lot of time, people's first instinct when they go into a hospital is to be reserved and be, just kind of like, oh, I'm sorry for the situation. But one thing I learned being at St. Jude around all those kids, and my sister too, is that they had the best attitudes you would have ever. If it wasn't for their bald heads, you'd have never known they were sick. Honestly, that's the way it is. They're playing, they're laughing, they're having a good time, and that definitely, having an experience like that helps a person understand that they might be sick, but there's beyond that, they're just kids. A kid is a kid, and a kid wants to be talked to. They want to laugh. They want to have fun, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. And so even when you go into a situation that is a bad situation, just treat them like a kid. They want to laugh. They want to have fun.
Absolutely. If you don't mind talking about a little bit, what was I guess the problem with your sister? I know there's a couple of ways you can do like a bone marrow. I think there's like a stem cell, and I guess there's a time where they kind of go in your head. So if you don't mind let us know how did
Right.
Well, how did they get the bone marrow program?
Well, she had her disease was called aplastic anemia, and it's just a blood disorder. And so basically, we went up, and interestingly enough, we went up one weekend. A bone marrow transplant is a last resort. You don't want to have to do it because even though St. Jude has a 100% success rate, I think, it could not work, and the person could die. Their body could reject it, and so it's a last resort thing. You don't want to do that. But you go up and get tested anyway, and there's a 25% chance that your sibling is a match. And interestingly enough, we went up one weekend and got tested, about a year or two beforehand. And there were 3 other families that went up. So including us, there were 4 families. And all the other families had siblings who weren't matches. And I was the only match of the 4 families. So the 25% held up strong right there.
Wow, yeah.
And so we went in. We did the transplant the day before Thanksgiving in 2007. And basically, they put me to sleep, thank goodness, because I got told I never got shown it. I might have passed out on my own, but I got shown a needle about that long that they stuck into my hip right here, and they just take it out. It's really interesting. And then they showed it to me, and it just looks like dark blood. It was in a monstrous bag. So they took it out as however much they needed, and they would go through the same entry point, just at different angles, and pull it out. And they had it in this very, very large bag. And then, interestingly enough, they just put in an IV, and it goes into her. It went into my sister's veins, I guess, and just knew where to go. Which is incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
It's amazing how God created us for that to happen. It just goes in, and it does its own thing. Mm-hmm. And so now it's interesting, too. There's a joke in the family that if my sister ever wanted to kill someone, she could commit a murder and leave her blood there, and it'd be my DNA, and they'd come and arrest me for it. But that's kind of how the process went, and now she's very healthy, and she actually goes to Carson-Newman. She's a nursing major right now. She wants to one day work at St. Jude.
Awesome. What's her name?
Kelly Day.
Kelly. And how old was she at the time?
At the time, she was in 8th grade, so I guess she would have been 14.
Mm-hmm.
So, and now she's freshman here, trying to survive freshman year.
Well, I know that's got to be a traumatic, just physical thing to go through. Were you nervous at all, or was there? I mean, I know I'm sure there was no question you were going to do
Right.
this for your sister.
A lot of times people are like, oh, that was so brave of you and this and that. And I'm like, well, who wouldn't have done it for their sister? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it wasn't scary. It ended up being quite an event, though, because at the time, you don't hear this often, but I was a lot bigger when I was 18 years old. I weighed a lot more, and I ended up getting a staph infection right near my sciatic nerve. And so at one point, I was having to be carried by my dad, who is a small guy. He was having to carry my 270-pound body as best he could to get me into a wheelchair to get me back to the hospital because the pain was so bad. So of all things that can happen, I ended up getting a staph infection. And at St. Jude, there's a transplant floor where there's just a couple of kids on that floor. Well, because I got the staph infection there, I stayed there and they took care of me. And so it was funny that me and my sister were both on the same floor getting taken care of at the exact same time, except I was for a staph infection and she was for the transplant.
Absolutely. A year later, you're at Carson-Newman, and I'm not sure, I don't remember, I know you're a 4-year starter. I don't remember if you were slated to start or kind of were pressed into that, to kind of have those moments and then here, 5 or 6 months later, be starting a football game. What's that like?
Well, I got redshirted.
Oh. Okay.
So I came in and got redshirted. So it wasn't until the next year after that I actually got to play because of some injuries. I was in the right place at right time, right position, and got to play with some guys around me, made me better than I actually was. But it was definitely, it kind of goes along the same lines. It's all a big blur up to that point. That year went by quickly. But it's good. I can say, I go to that point to now, and it seems like so long ago. But at the same time, these past few years have gone by so fast that it's been fun. It's been a great time I've had at Carson-Newman.
I know you guys were disappointed Saturday, but maybe nothing's going to fix that until Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got to be a positive thing for you and for the team to get this news and to be able to talk about this, I would think.
Well, it definitely was very disappointing. It's one thing to get beat. It's another thing to get beat bad. And definitely Newberry, very good team, and they definitely got the best of us. They definitely handled us pretty well, which is never good. But in the game, having a game on Thursday, that can be a good thing. A quick turnaround. You can immediately. It's easier to forget about a game when you have one coming up like that. And then as far as the news, it'll be exciting, but at the same time, I don't want anybody to be focused on this. I'd much rather than be focused on going out today at practice, making sure we have a good practice, same tomorrow, and getting prepared for a good Wingate team, which I'm sure is ready to come in here. They had a quick turnaround as well. I think I remember they won their game pretty good, so they're definitely playing well right now, and so they're going to come in here ready to play. And I would hope everyone's more focused on that than this, but this is definitely some good news.